Welcome to Smart, Successful and Stressed Mums, the podcast for professional mums who are doing it all. I'm Jasmine, mum of two, qualified social worker and lover of personal and professional development. And I know firsthand what it's like to juggle career, parenting and everything in between. Here, we dive into real conversations about motherhood, career, health, well-being, and the daily balancing act that comes with it. You'll hear from experts in the field, as well as everyday professional mums sharing their stories, struggles, and wins. So grab your favorite hot drink or reheat the one you forgot about, and let's get into it. Welcome to episode 3 of the Smart, Successful and Stressed podcast. Thank you so much for joining me again. In the podcast so far, we've spoken about the perfect mum myth, or the stereotype of the perfect mum. And now today's episode, we're going to be talking about the perfect mum versus the good mum. So the perfect mum is a myth. She doesn't exist. She's not a real person. She might be a social media avatar. She might be a content creator on social media who, because of her brand and what she and her sponsorship opportunities, etc., she may present as the perfect mum. But we know in real life from meeting other mums and even from hearing about the celebrities' experiences of parenting, and quite a few celebrities had spoken about their experiences of postnatal depression, for example, one of which was Brooke Shields, but even celebrity mums are coming out and talking about their challenges. The Kardashians have had a lot of different things happening in their lives, very public breakups, Kanye West with his mental health difficulties and so forth. So even celebrities who are mums are really showing some more, raw insights in some of the challenges of parenting. So I've got a hair that's coming across my mouth. I'll just move that. It was sticking to my lips. That was very distracting. So as we know, the perfect mum doesn't exist. So let's talk about the good mum. Who is the good mum and what are her characteristics? So I like to think of myself as a good mum. So the good mum isn't perfect and she certainly doesn't strive for perfection, but what the good mum strives for is being the best that she can be with the resources that she has at any given time. And when I say resources, I mean a mixture of mental or emotional resources and physical resources. To use an example, late last year, so late 2024, I had oral surgery and I had 3 teeth removed under general anesthetic. I was in quite a lot of pain after that particular surgery. I had a lot of swelling, I had bleeding, I wasn't able to eat very much and to eat proper food for quite a number of weeks. The recovery time was a lot longer than I had anticipated. I felt shocking. I'd never experienced oral pain or pain like that before. So every single thing I was doing at that time was a struggle. So even getting out of bed and I had to gargle salt water times a day, and after eating, and I think it was about 5-6 times a day I had to gargle with salt water. I wasn't even eating that number of times a day because I was in so much pain and I had stitches in my mouth as well. So it was just an unpleasant experience for not just me, but my family. It was unpleasant for everybody. When I'm not feeling great, everyone knows about it. Everyone's impacted in a negative way. So even just me getting out of bed, brushing my teeth, gargling with the salt water, and then getting my daughters to school just felt so difficult. And I was on very strong pain medication, so I had to significantly reduce the dosage I was taking so I would feel coherent enough to be able to safely drive around. I was prescribed, I think, 2 of this particular medication, but I found that that made me way too drowsy and I didn't feel that I was safe to be on the road with that level, with that dosage. So I ended up reducing to half a tablet. So I was taking significantly less than what the doctor had prescribed, and as a result, the pain was quite significant, but then I was able to drive. I didn't feel, drowsy or incoherent. So I had made that sacrifice so I could safely drive my daughters to school. If I was looking at a perfect mum at that time, would have, despite feeling, I guess, the expectation of the quote, perfect mum at that time would have been, despite the fact that she's unwell, she's taking medication, she will still ensure that she showers, she'll brush her hair, she'll put her makeup on, she will change out of her trackies to drop her children to school just to return home to go back into bed. That's the perfect mum. That would be an example of what I would have done if I subscribed to the notion of the perfect mum in that moment. But what I did in that moment as the good mum, I brushed my teeth. That's a bare minimum to me, regardless of how unwell I am. Teeth brushing, that's a bare minimum. So I brushed my teeth, my saltwater gargle, took the lower dose of the medication, and I believe I had pajamas on, so I changed into appropriately clean trackies and drove them to school. They were on time to school. They had their lunch boxes. I always prepare them the day before. They had their lunches. They came to school. They had their uniform on. I wasn't immaculately presented. I can't even remember if I walked them in or just did a gate dump and run. I can't remember. It was all a bit of a blur at that time. But the resources I had at that time in terms of the physical resources was that I didn't have much energy. I felt physically unwell. I had a lot of oral pain. So what I was able to do at that time in terms of the physical resources I had was what I had done. And because I was physically unwell, then my emotional or my mental resources were also quite depleted. So let's say, for instance, when I attempted to drop off my daughters, if their teacher came up to me and tried to speak to me at that moment about maybe one of my daughters got in trouble the day before, maybe there was an incident and they wanted a higher level discussion, I at that time wouldn't have had the emotional resources to engage in that level of conversation at all. A perfect mum would have said, oh yes, certainly, I'll come into your office now, let's have that discussion, I'm open to it. But the good mum's response would have said, I acknowledge the concerns that you're raising. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling well currently. Can we set up a time later in the week? Can we do it via phone call or a Zoom? Because I'm really not well. So we think of the perfect mum response versus the good mum response. We also have to think about the resources that we have at that time. And if I compare, say, that same situation, if I wasn't physically unwell and the idea of getting my children to school before going to work, and then let's say the teacher were to stop me at that time about, a misdemeanor, then I would have had the emotional resources to then respond to that issue at the time. And some of the other things that the good mum does, as opposed to the perfect mum, is that the good mum just tries. So the good mum will attempt things. It doesn't mean that she always has to be successful in it. So as this podcast is designed for us professional mums, so the good mum, who's also a good employee, will try her best at work. If there's a new project that you've been assigned, you will try your best on that project on a good day. You'll try your best on a good day, and then you'll submit the project to your client or to your manager, and you may get the feedback that you've missed the mark a little bit, or that the project wasn't quite in line with the client's expectations. And instead of defaulting into the perfect mum, the perfect employee mode, it's okay to step back and remind ourselves that it's okay that we miss the mark. We don't always have to get it spot on. It's not necessary. Sometimes our good enough has to do. In fact, instead of saying the good mother, I should have said the good enough mother. But I feel like that term has probably been done to death. But part of why I want to talk about the notion of the good mother is because the good mother doesn't stop trying just because she doesn't succeed the first time. In the first episode, and if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to the first one, and I spoke about some of the challenges I had in recording the very first episode, including an appointment I had prior to recording, running late. I spoke about technical issues, and I ended up starting to record 2 hours after intending to. So I didn't get the technical aspects of getting the podcast set up perfectly, but it didn't stop me from trying. I persevered and thought, okay, I'm late to my podcast studio booking, but it's good enough. I'm just going to work with what time I have and just make my best attempt at getting something recorded for you lovely mums. So again, if you haven't listened to the first episode, I encourage you to go back. I'll also link it in the show notes as well, so you can just easily circle back. In this third episode of Smart, Successful and Stressed, we've spoken about the perfect mother versus the good mother, and that the good mother does what she can with both the emotional and the physical resources that she has available to her at the time. I hope this has been helpful, and if you know another professional mum in your life who needs a bit of a reminder that the good mum is what we're aiming for, then I would love you to share this episode with her. And you can also send me a DM on Instagram and let me know in what way this week that you've accepted that the good mother is good enough. Thank you so much for listening to Smart, Successful and Stressed.